Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Auto Amateur. I'm James and we're here for another exhaust video with Soul Performance products. And this time, finally, after 9 months of waiting, I have the headers installed. So I now have a full end-to-end Soul Performance exhaust. And in this video, we're going to be doing the install and sound tests and road tests at the tail of the dragon. So let's go check it out. Oh, baby, you better believe it. Full end-to-end Soul Performance sports exhaust on this 991. I couldn't be happier. It sounds amazing. The throttle response is fantastic. Blah, blah, blah. I can't wait for you to listen to it. We're going to be doing a full end-to-end sound test, factory PSE against full Soul, and then we're going to zero in with a second sound test where we're just comparing the sounds of the headers. So let's talk about the products themselves. Like everything Soul puts out, these things are spectacular. You almost want to mount them on the wall and just treat them like a piece of art because they are beautiful. The things that come out of Porsche and their exhaust systems, they're ugly. They're really ugly compared to the rest of the car. Porsche obviously doesn't care. You look at the car, you don't look at the exhaust. But for purists, well, for enthusiasts and modders like you and I, we care about these things. Now, looks aside, there are definitely some improvements here with this product, and it's sort of a triple whammy. One, there are weight savings. So they're lighter than what you have from the factory, and that obviously helps with performance. On the performance side, we've got about an improvement of 14 brake horsepower and approximately 20 foot-pounds of torque. And that's also very similar to what you get with the Sport Cats. So let's think about the power now that I'm probably getting. And this is a good excuse to put this thing on the dyno, obviously. Out of the factory, 375 horses and about 395 foot-pounds of torque. With my Softronic tune, that took both up to around 500. So about 495 brake horsepower and about 510 foot-pounds of torque. If you aggregate those gains across the cats and the headers, conservatively, we're probably now looking at about 510 horse brake power and about 520 or 25 foot-pounds of torque. That takes us not only to, but above GT3 territory in terms of power. Obviously, the GT3 and its handling and its suspension and all of the other things that you get with the GT3 make it a far superior car to this 911. But as we'll see a little bit later on the road test, I was able to keep up easily with my friend Chris's GT3 Touring when we were on the tail of the dragon. He could not shake me free. The power of this thing is just absolutely incredible. So that's the headers. Now let's get them installed on the car and then we'll get to the sound test and the road test. So let's get it on. You can see over here, we've got these bolts. There are 3 on this side and there are 4 or 5 on the other. And then we've just got a couple of nuts here where the header connects to the turbo, and then we've got a bracket, and hopefully it should just pop off.
let's talk about this step real quick. This is the double nut method that I got from a Tommy L garage video doing the same job. You essentially put a second nut on top of the first and tighten it down. And then you use your wrench to loosen the first nut that touches the turbo, and instead of taking off the nuts, it actually takes out the pillar. It's absolutely genius, and it works.
So let's take a look at the differences here between the factory header and the Soul Performance header. Now, obviously they look very different. I've got to say the Porsche one just looks ugly as hell. My 997 headers didn't look anything like this. There wasn't just one big thing that looks like an overstuffed pizza bread. They were actually quite similar to the Soul Performance products version here with the 3 separate pipes. Now, one big difference between factory and Soul is the weight. I'll put the exact weight measurement up there, but just, feeling the two in your hand, I would say this one is about 25% lighter, at least, than this one over here. So you get some weight savings, but also if we take a look at the size of the pipes here, you can see there's a huge difference. This opening here is probably twice the size of the factory pipe. And then as we look at the I guess inlets, outlets, whatever we want to call them, there's also a little bit of a difference there too. But it's primarily the separation of the pipes and the size of this opening here that's the big difference. All right, so you can see the bottom of the driver's side cylinders here, and all the posts are still intact. Interestingly, over here on the passenger side, a number of the posts came out with the screws. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it is what it is. We had to take out a simple bolt here to release the turbo so we could get a bit of wiggle room. We took out and reversed out 2 of the posts here on the side of the turbo. The top one was left on. This one we actually backed out from the other side. You can get to it through over here. And now we just put the new gaskets on that Soul have provided and get the headers back on. So on the driver's side, we've got the first header mounted and we've got most of the bolts back in place. What I haven't done yet is any of the torquing. I think it's 18 foot-pounds for these nuts and fasteners on this side, and potentially also for the nuts over here. And then the screw for the brace for the turbo, I'm just hand tightening, and the other screw for the other brace, I'll also just hand tighten. But this is what it looks like on the driver's side. And then conversely, if we go over to the passenger side, which I haven't worked on yet, you can just see the bare cylinders, which just look absolutely phenomenal. I just love this view inside the engine. It's really, really cool. So now I've got to get the other headers on. If you do have another pair of hands, it's helpful because holding them in place just to get the first few bolts, screws back on to keep it up there would be helpful. But so far the job's been really enjoyable, and the lift has definitely helped a lot, as well as having the cats and the actual exhaust off the back of the car.
Alright, now we've heard the full Porsche Sports exhaust against the full Soul exhaust, let's zero in on the headers and see what the difference is between the factory headers and the Soul headers on the car.
Okay, you guys, tail of the dragon. What better road to test my new full end-to-end Soul exhaust than the tail of the dragon? Well, here we go. The pops and the crackles, they're just there, but a little bit more aggressive than ever before. And the sound is just phenomenal. Let's go. Oh, police car. Thank you very much. You know, that's something that folks who drive the Dragon are really good at usually. If they see a car coming behind that they think's going faster, they pull over. There are lots of little laybys here to pull over and just let people through. The other thing I love about this exhaust is that I can now hear the sound of the turbo spools a little more. Well, actually, a lot more. Oh, yeah. Gotta say though, this is a road where you do not want to go over the yellow line. Not even a little bit. Oh yeah, nice crew there. And this is also a road where you've got to use your gears. You really want to avoid braking as much as possible, especially with these cars with the engines in the rear. This car. This reminds me, I did a similar video on my 991.1, also with a full Soul Performance exhaust. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you can improve on a naturally aspirated engine and the sound that it makes. But this is a really good second place. There are a lot of naysayers out there who say that the turbocharged exhausts or the turbocharged engines just can't make as good a noise. Well, I'm here to tell you, with the Soul exhaust, oh yes they can. Look at that, another one. Thank you. Little miniature Jeep there letting me through, very kind. Yes. So obviously there's a lot more to say about my car than the Soul Performance exhaust, but I'm telling you right now, all I can think about is hitting these corners and just listening to that exhaust howl. Oh, it's so good. Well, while we're at it, let's also talk about Flat 6 Motorsports. The diverter valves that I installed, I can definitely feel an improvement there as well. Just maintaining the boost pressure in between transmission changes. And on a road like this, really important. Because like right here, I'm gonna turn, I'm gonna go into second, and I want as much power as possible when I pull out. And there it is. Just amazing. There's no loss of power. And then of course, my Softronic tune as well has really transformed the personality of this car. You know, coming out of the factory with 370 horses and about 395 foot-pounds of torque, with the stage 1 tune as tested at Minnesota Performance on the dyno. The car's now putting out about 495 horses and just over 505 foot-pounds of torque. But then of course the headers, the Sport Cats, whoops, I do not want to be in first gear. With the headers and the Sport Cats, that's probably giving me another combined about 25, maybe 30 foot-pounds of torque and around the same for horsepower. So that puts this car in turbo territory, but absolutely in GT3 territory in terms of power and speed. Well, you know, it's kind of in that GT3 territory, which is, anybody who watches my channel knows, the GT3 is my dream car. Why can't all roads be like this? Just, God, I mean, I'm here to talk about the exhaust, but God, this 911 is so good. It just explodes out of every turn. Not a single bit of power lost in between transmission changes. It's so firm and just like sticks to the ground. Assuming you're in the right gear, going from corner to corner. It's just, it's a driver's car. It's a driver's dream. Having gone through the exhaust progression of the X-pipe and the valved X-pipe, the bypass pipes, the Sport Cats, and now the headers. While the X-pipe and the Sport Cats have given me a lot of sound improvements, and the Cats performance to a degree, my God, if you want to spend money on performance, get the headers. Lost a little bit of traction there. The headers just make the car drive like a completely different animal on top of the tune, with the diverter valves from Flat 6 Motorsports as well to help maintain all that boost pressure. Oh, just, I can't get enough of this car, and that's the tail of the dragon. Well, thanks for checking out another video, guys. Now that I've got this full end-to-end exhaust system and I've experienced it, what am I going to do? Because there was a decision point sort of at the very beginning of this whole process and a few along the way. I'm absolutely sold on the headers, definitely sold on the headers. I'm sold on the Sport Cats over the bypass pipes. Even though the bypass pipes give you a little bit more power in the gains, it's ultimately balanced out by the sound. I just prefer the sound of the Sport Cats. And then the muffler. I've got to say the factory PSE muffler is really, really good. It sounds great. And I'm quite tempted to swap out the Soul valved exhaust now that I've got the headers and the Cats on with the factory muffler and do a comparison there. So this probably isn't the end of the Soul series because I've still got some more playing around to do. But I'm 99.9% sure I'm going to be sticking with full end-to-end Soul, but I am interested in just doing that last comparison. And I've still got my muffler there in the background, as you can see. So that's probably going to be an excuse to make another video. But you just can't argue with the gains. And as far as, you know, kind of where is your best bang for buck, from a performance point of view, it's definitely in the headers. From a sound point of view, as well as performance, it's definitely in the Sport Cats. From an overall kind of sound point of view, and if you don't want to be spending, you know, upwards of $7,000 or $8,000, it's either the Sport Cats and or it's the valved exhaust. So hopefully that helps you guys make some decisions of your own. Again, I'm no means an expert, but I'm always here to give you my 2 cents. So if you want to hit me up on Instagram, I'm auto.amateur. You can send me an email, contact@autoamateur.com, or you can just hit me up in the comments below. But thanks for coming along this journey with me. I am sure there are going to be more exhaust videos to come. But for now, I'm just going to get out and drive. See you in another video soon. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks. Bye.